Imagine living 2,000 years ago and your empire builds roads so good. Some are still used today. Meanwhile, your neighbor can't even fix that pothole on your street. That's Rome, the civilization that engineered the ancient world like it was one giant Lego set. But here's the real kicker. Romans weren't just building for survival, they were building for flex. Oh, you barbarians still live in huts. That's cute. We have central heating, running water, and a sports stadium that makes the NFL look like backyard football. Stick around because today we're diving into the mind-blowing world of ancient Roman engineering, where concrete lasted longer than empires, aqueducts carried more water than your overpriced hydro flask, and arches literally held up civilization. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on history's wildest stories. And if you've ever complained about your Wi-Fi being slow, just remember, the Romans basically built the first information superhighway. Spoiler, it was made of stone. All right, let's fire up the time machine, adjust those togas, and walk down the very first topic. Roman roads. Picture this. It's 50 BCE. You're in a Roman chariot cruising down a road so smooth it feels like you're gliding. And no, there are no potholes, no traffic lights, and zero road rage, unless you count gladiators on horseback. The Romans built over 250,000 miles of roads, about 50,000 of them paved. That's like driving from New York to LA nearly 90 times. And they did it all without GPS, Google Maps, or even Home Depot. Just raw engineering and grit. But why roads? Simple. Rome understood one thing better than anyone. Control the roads, control the empire. Troops, supplies, trade, gossip, all moved faster than ever before. A messenger could deliver news across the empire in days instead of weeks. That's basically ancient FedEx. So how'd they do it? These roads weren't just dirt paths. They were built with multiple layers. 1. Gravel and stones for drainage. 2. Sand and lime to stabilize. 3. Massive paving stones fitted so tightly you'd think Romans invented jigsaw puzzles. And here's the crazy part. Some of those roads are still in use today. Imagine your local highway lasting not 20 years but 2,000. Yeah, good luck explaining that to modern contractors. The most legendary road? The Appian Way, built in 312 BCE. It connected Rome to southern Italy and was so iconic they called it the Queen of Roads. Think of it as the I-95 of the ancient world. Soldiers marched on it, traders used it, and Julius Caesar probably strutted down it like it was a runway. Now you might be thinking, okay, so they built good roads. Big deal. But hold on. These weren't just for getting around. Roads were the veins of the empire. No roads equals no Roman dominance. Plus, let's be honest, the phrase, "all roads lead to Rome," wasn't just a cute saying, it was literal. The Romans were like, yeah, no matter where you go, you're basically coming back to us. Thanks for playing. Here's the wildest part. Engineers today still study Roman road construction, and yet, in 2025, I still can't drive 5 minutes without hitting a crater-sized pothole. Rome. 1. Modern infrastructure. 0. So the Romans had the ultimate highway system, basically the backbone of their empire. But what good is a road trip without snacks? And more importantly, water. That's where the Romans really showed off. Next up, the aqueducts. Rome's version of a flex so big it made entire cities possible. So the Romans had roads that could outlast a Kardashian marriage. But roads are just the start, because let's be real, an empire this big isn't running on vibes alone. It runs on water. And if there's one thing Romans knew how to do, it was flex their engineering skills to keep the fountains flowing and the bathhouses steamy. First things first. An aqueduct isn't just some fancy word your history teacher threw at you. It was the life support system of Rome. Imagine trying to supply water for over 1 million people. without pipes, faucets, or even Brita filters. Rome pulled it off, and in style. At its peak, Rome had 11 aqueduct systems, stretching over 300 miles. Some of them carried water from mountains more than 50 miles away. That's like saying, "Oh, you're thirsty? No problem, let's pipe in some mountain water from another state." Here's the genius part: gravity. No pumps, no motors, just carefully calculated slopes, arches, and tunnels. Engineers made sure the water flowed smoothly, using nothing but math and stone. And they nailed it so perfectly that aqueducts could deliver over 200 million gallons of water per day. 200 million gallons, that's like filling up 300 Olympic swimming pools, every single day. So where did all that water go? Public baths, fountains, private homes of the rich, and even toilets. Yep, Rome had flushing toilets before your great-great-great-grandparents even thought about indoor plumbing. The rich literally bathed in luxury, while peasants at least got free public fountains. Everybody ate, or in this case, everybody drank. And let's not forget, Romans loved their baths. Whole social lives revolved around hanging out naked in steamy pools of water. Imagine today if all networking events happened at your local YMCA hot tub. Weird? Yeah, but also kinda iconic. One of the most impressive aqueducts was the Aqua Claudia, completed in 52 CE. Standing over 100 feet tall in places, it looked like a stone roller coaster delivering liquid life to Rome. To this day, parts of it still stand tall, like Rome's way of saying, "Yeah, we did that." And no, your apartment complex's plumbing still sucks. So with fresh water flowing 24/7, Rome was basically thriving. But water wasn't just about survival, it was about showing off. And nothing screams, "We're better than you," louder than a building where 50,000 people can watch lions eat Christians for fun. Ah, the Colosseum. Probably the most famous Roman structure ever, built around 70 to 80 CE, it was Rome's ultimate flex. If the aqueducts were about utility, the Colosseum was about spectacle. This thing could seat 50,000 to 80,000 people. That's basically an NFL stadium, but built with stone, sweat, and no cranes. It had 80 entrances, so crowds could get in and out faster than people leaving a bad concert. But the real genius, the Colosseum had hypogeum, underground tunnels where gladiators, animals, and props waited for their big moment. Think backstage at WrestleMania, but with tigers. Elevators and trapdoors powered by pulleys, so animals could literally pop out of the floor like surprise party guests. Except instead of balloons, it's a lion trying to eat you. Retractable awning system, the velarium, that shaded the crowd. Sailors from the Roman Navy actually operated it because who else knew how to handle that much rope? Imagine calling in the Navy just so Karen doesn't get sunburned during the show. And what went down inside? Everything from gladiator fights to wild animal hunts, mock naval battles. Yes, they sometimes flooded the arena, and public executions. Basically, it was Rome's version of Netflix. Violence, drama, and reality TV all rolled into one. Here's the kicker. Tickets were free. Yup, you didn't even need to Venmo the emperor. Bread and circuses, baby. As long as people were entertained, they didn't riot. So, while modern fans pay $300 for nosebleeds at a football game, Romans got front-row seats to tigers versus humans for free. Talk about value. And here's the part that blows my mind. The Colosseum has survived earthquakes, fires, looters, and even tourists with selfie sticks. Sure, it's missing a few chunks, but after nearly 2,000 years, it still stands tall. Meanwhile, modern stadiums fall apart after what, 30 years? Rome, 2. Modern construction, still 0. The Colosseum wasn't just a building, it was propaganda. It said, "We are Rome, we are strong, we will literally throw a party with 50,000 people just to prove it." And honestly, mission accomplished. So, Rome had roads to move armies, aqueducts to keep the wine flowing, and a mega stadium that made the Super Bowl look like open mic night. But how did they build stuff that lasted this long? The secret ingredient wasn't magic, it was concrete. And trust me, Roman concrete makes the stuff in your driveway look like Play-Doh. Alright, so far we've covered roads, aqueducts, and the Colosseum, three engineering flexes that already put Rome in GOAT status. But here's the real cheat code: Roman concrete, the secret sauce that made their empire last way longer than anyone else's buildings. Modern concrete is made from cement, sand, and gravel. Roman concrete, or opus caementicium if you want to flex in Latin class, used a secret ingredient: volcanic ash. Why volcanic ash? Because when it mixed with lime and water, it created a chemical reaction that made the concrete self-heal when cracks formed. That's right, Roman concrete literally got stronger with age. Meanwhile, my modern sidewalk cracks if you so much as look at it the wrong way. Now, let's step it up a notch. Domes. If arches were the Romans' cheat code, domes were their boss level. The Pantheon. The ultimate example? The Pantheon in Rome, built around 118 to 125 CE. Its dome is 142 feet wide, and it's still the largest unreinforced concrete dome in the world. Read that again. In the world. 2,000 years later. How? They engineered the dome using lighter materials as it rose. The bottom was thick and heavy, but as it curved upward, they used lighter volcanic rock like pumice. Genius. Right at the top of the dome is a 30-foot-wide hole called the oculus, basically the world's oldest skylight. It reduced weight, let in natural light, and symbolized the heavens. In modern terms, a giant aesthetic flex. That dome has survived earthquakes, wars, and whatever else Europe threw at it. Meanwhile, your local mall roof collapses after one snowstorm. Rome, 3. Modern engineering, still taking L's. Here's what blows my mind. Romans did all this math without calculators. No computers, no AutoCAD, not even a TI-84. Just dudes in togas scribbling numbers in the sand, and somehow they nailed it so perfectly that the Pantheon is basically immortal. So now we've got Roman concrete, arches and domes, the holy trinity of ancient architecture. But Rome didn't just build pretty landmarks. They built for war, daily life, and even some tricks we're still trying to figure out today. Next up, military engineering, everyday hacks, and Rome's hidden tricks. This is where the Romans proved they weren't just builders, they were geniuses. So far, Rome has roads smoother than your uncle's bald head, aqueducts that could hydrate an entire empire, and domes that laugh in the face of gravity. But here's the thing. Rome wasn't just flexing for art's sake, they were flexing for power, and nowhere did that shine more than in their military engineering. Roman armies could set up a fully functional military camp in a single night. We're talking ditches, palisades, roads inside the camp, even designated bathrooms. Your average army pitched tents. Rome built a miniature city. And let's not forget the bridges. Julius Caesar once built a massive wooden bridge across the Rhine River in just 10 days. 10 days. That's less time than it takes my city to fix a traffic light. Caesar didn't even need the bridge. He built it just to prove he could. Then he marched his troops across, flexed on the Germanic tribes, and tore it down. That's not engineering, that's pettiness turned into art. Romans also perfected siege weapons, ballistae, ancient crossbows that could launch giant bolts, onages, catapults, that hurled massive rocks at walls, siege towers that rolled up to enemy gates like Trojan Horse 2.0. Basically, if you had a wall, Rome had an answer, and spoiler alert, your wall lost. Modern armies spend billions on fighter jets. Rome just pulled up with a giant slingshot and said, "Nice fortress. Be a shame if a 300-pound boulder hit it." Now, let's zoom in on daily life. Rome wasn't just building for war, they engineered comfort. Public baths were the Starbucks of Rome. Everyone went there to hang out, gossip, and relax. Underneath, they used a system called hypercausts, basically ancient underfloor heating. Hot air flowed under the floors and through the walls, turning the baths into ancient spas. So next time you're cranking your Nest thermostat, remember, Romans had radiant heating 2,000 years ago. Toilets. Yes, Romans had public toilets. Long benches with holes, everyone sitting side by side, chatting while doing their business. Hygiene was questionable. They shared a communal sponge on a stick for wiping. No, seriously, but hey, it was better than nothing. Imagine going to the bathroom and bumping into your senator. "Oh, hey Marcus, how's the empire?" Pass the sponge when you're done. Rome also had apartment buildings called insulae, which could be 5 to 7 stories tall. Entire neighborhoods stacked up with shops on the bottom and housing above. Think Manhattan, but with more marble and fewer Starbucks. They also engineered traffic systems, fountains, and even fire brigades. Honestly, Rome was more organized than half of today's cities. Here's the part that makes Rome legendary. Some of their tricks are still a mystery. We only recently figured out why Roman concrete heals itself. For centuries, scientists were scratching their heads like, why does this ancient wall look brand new while my driveway crumbles? Spoiler, it was the volcanic ash, but some details are still debated. They had cranes, pile drivers, and lifting machines so advanced that we don't fully understand how they pulled off some of their mega builds. The Colosseum, for example, required hundreds of thousands of tons of stone, yet no one left behind a detailed how-to manual. At the end of the day, Roman engineering wasn't just about bricks and water. It was about power, control, and vision. They built an empire where roads carried ideas, aqueducts carried life, and monuments carried messages of dominance. And even though Rome eventually fell, their engineering never did. We still drive on their roads, study their aqueducts, and admire their architecture. Think about it. 2,000 years later, the Roman Colosseum still draws more visitors than most modern stadiums. The Pantheon dome still makes engineers scratch their heads, and their concrete still standing tall. So next time your Wi-Fi drops, your road has a pothole, or your building starts leaking, just remember, the Romans figured this stuff out with no electricity, no computers, and way too many sandals. Maybe it's time we take notes. If you had fun diving into the engineering genius of ancient Rome, hit that like button, smash subscribe, and drop a comment below. Which Roman invention blew your mind the most? And hey, if you're watching this on your phone while sitting on the toilet, congratulations, you're basically living the Roman dream.